Hi, you guys, and welcome back to the podcast.
We are the Carwells.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Sarah, and we are, as you know, Airbnb interior designers and investors. Welcome back, everyone, to Catch Up with the Carwells. Today is another episode with just Emily and I.
Yeah, we're doing these like once a month now. It's so fun.
Yeah, honestly, you know, I love interviewing other people. I love it. Like, I left our last interview just feeling so fired up because we did it at the beginning of the day.
Yeah.
But I love these, which
I know. I was thinking about it literally right before we got on, and I was like, I gotta stop texting Sarah about my issues so we can start talking more about them on the podcast because I feel like I'm constantly texting you about it. And then when we talk about it here, it's just like repeating.
Yeah, we're covering our latest drama all over again.
Yes.
But honestly, the drama never ends, so it's fine.
Never ends. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So, as you all know, we start every episode with an Airbnb horror story, and as you all know, we never run out of our own horror stories. I don't even know why we ask other people for their horror stories other than the fact that misery loves company, but...
Right.
But here we go. So... As you know, and maybe our listeners also know, when I raised capital for Orange Cadillac, a portion of partnering with other people is figuring out who's going to manage the property or how that property is going to be managed. And I volunteered to partner with another girl on managing the property. And honestly, I was just like so floored that people were giving me money to do a property that I was just like willing to do literally anything to get that property. Like I just wanted Orange Cadillac so bad. And I was thinking about everything that we had to do on the front end of the project. Like I wasn't focused on what was happening on the back end of the project. So of course I agreed to manage it. Quickly discovered that I don't want to manage it. I want to back out. I hate it.
Yeah.
But with managing this property, it has come with no shortage of drama. I'm sure I've had like 3 other horror stories that are related to Orange Cadillac, but the most recent drama that I've had in that property is I have had 3 now washer machines die on me in 3 weeks.
Last time I heard it was 2. So there's another one now?
Yeah, the brand new one that we installed to replace the other one that just took a crap today. And it's literally like fresh off like the floor, installed last week, already isn't working.
Great. Do you think it's like a connection problem?
I have a hunch that it's a cleaner overloading the washing machine problem.
Ooh.
I'm like, because this is what I think because I'm just like, the 3 washing machines that have died none of them are the same brand. Yeah. All 3 of them have different locations in the house. Well, one is the same one twice, but they have different locations in the house. And so I'm just like, okay, we're dealing with 3 different washing machines that all are having a similar malfunction. And one of the symptoms or one of the potential causes of these malfunctions is overloading it. And that house holds 16 and the cleaners are trying to get out of there quickly, you know? So I've never had it happen in any other property though. And you know, they're constantly running towels and things like that. So I don't really know, but we are, you know, $1,500 deep in trying to resolve, probably over $1,500 deep in trying to resolve all these issues because we've had to replace 1 full washing machine. We've had service people out there nonstop. We've had to take laundry to the laundromat instead of doing it at the house because the laundry machines at the house aren't working. And so this one giant issue has cost us $1,500 to $2,000 this month alone in trying to resolve.
Oh,
So that's my current horror story.
That is very, very annoying. I can't even imagine having to take it to the laundromat because literally right now, this goes along with like living in your property while you're getting it up and running, guys. My washer and dryer is still not hooked up. We're on like 2 weeks of no washer and dryer at my house. And Tyler and I have been like holding out because we have our handyman who's supposed to come over and install the sink that the washer like drain. It has like a drain line too. All the stuff. So there's a lot of things that have to happen before we can like re-hook up our stuff. So the laundry is just piling and piling and piling and I'm running out of clothes and I'm like, do I just go to the laundromat? But I really don't want to do that because it's such an inconvenience to go to the laundromat. I literally, like, Sarah knows this, but I took some clothes to Sarah's on 4th of July weekend and did laundry at her house because it's easier than going to the laundromat for me. but I just need to do it. But because he has like such a weird schedule, he probably won't end up being the handyman that's like our on call handyman for this property, because he has like a full-time job and his schedule is pretty out there, and so he can't necessarily drop everything and come whenever, but he knows the house really well, so if there's a big issue I can have him come over and work on it. But for this specifically, he's like, I gotta work today, but I can maybe come tomorrow, but here's the list of things you need to go buy. And so I'm like, can we get my washer hooked back up so I don't have to take this massive pile of laundry to the laundromat?
Yeah, dude. No. When we were living in the school bus earlier this year for those couple of months and we had to take all of our clothes to the laundromat, it just is. I just hate it. I just hate having to wait. And you like can't go very far because it doesn't take that long, but it takes long enough that you don't want to sit there and wait for it. And it's just always an interesting clientele in there. And so I'm always just like, I don't know, not comfortable.
Yeah, I don't even necessarily 100% know if there is a laundromat here. I'm gonna assume there is, but like I don't know that for sure. I haven't even looked it up because I'm just putting it off, and I just keep telling myself that he's gonna come this week and my laundry's gonna be hooked back up. But I can't even imagine like I having a washer and dryer in your Airbnb is such a luxury to not have to have your cleaners take it with them and do it somewhere else. That like if you have the option to have it in your unit, absolutely. I just think it's so worth it. And that's just from like my personal experience.
Yeah. Yeah. If you ever have to clean your own property, just do it for yourself. It's so annoying. The laundry is a monster. It's a beast by itself.
Yeah.
But it's a great segue into me talking about me being the bottleneck as well. This episode is going to be all about just Emily and Sarah reflecting on how they're their own bottlenecks in their own
we
businesses.
are the problem.
We are the problem, and also the solution, hopefully. But
hopefully.
I recently started reading a new book. If you guys follow me on Threads, you've seen me the last 2 days talking about the first 2 chapters. I'm literally 2 chapters into this book, and I'm like, this is the book that's going to change my life, which is amazing. I needed it. But what I realized, this book references another book that I have not read yet that I've had several people recommend to me, that specifically talks about your genius zone and how if you can stay in your genius zone as much as humanly possible, then you will be the happiest and the most wealthy. And the idea is that you're just like focused on the one thing that both energizes you and fills your pockets. And so before I started reading this book, the last 2 weeks, Ethan and I have just hit our threshold. Like, I mean, I've talked to you about this multiple times in the last month or so, that we're just like, we don't even have the capacity to like have time for our friends, have time for our family, have time for each other, have time for fun, like do anything other than think about work. And it's just because this summer is the first summer that we've had 4 properties running in Michigan during high season all at the same time, and having us manage all 4 properties. And so I did not anticipate the amount of fires that we would be putting out over the last month, as like busy season's in full swing and we've got our most expensive reservations and so on and so forth. And so we just like, you know, are in the process of bringing this property to life, with which, as you're going to talk about, is like chaos all on its own. And then in the middle of that chaos of every day being absolutely jam-packed full of things bringing this property to life, there's like crisis happening everywhere and every property that needs attention and resolution as quickly as humanly possible, on top of these like tight timelines for these properties. And so anyway, I was like, I need to offload Orange Cadillac. Like, I need to get rid of managing Orange Cadillac because I'm not doing it justice. It's the thing that's draining the most amount of energy from me, and it's making me the least amount of money. I need to outsource it. And so I reached out to Federico, of course, from Argus Rentals, and I was like, look, like, please come save me from this property. It's like actually killing me. And then when I started reading this book, what I realized is that the first things that you should be delegating are the things that drain you of the most energy and make you the least amount of money. And so for me, although I had made that move ahead of time of beginning to outsource it to Federico, I know that I've talked to you a million times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to hang on to managing our own portfolio outside of Orange Cadillac until the end of the year. And then January of 2024, I'll hand off management completely. And after reading the first 2 chapters of this book, I'm like, I'm handing it off tomorrow. I'm done with it. But it's just one of those things where I think that we pride ourselves on running a really great high quality hospitality business, and we're just at the beginning of our offering. We're 4 years into Carwell, but we're really only 2 years into having actual properties where people are having actual experiences and like getting to interact with what we've created. And I think I'm like in my head being like, oh, nobody's going to care about my guests as much as I do. And what I'm realizing is like there are a lot of people that will care about these guests more than I will, because I get so defensive so fast. So, and it's because it drains my energy. So that's been a huge learning curve for me over the last 2 weeks, is just like definitely finding our max capacity and us having to be like, okay, do we actually hate this? And is it actually all crumbling, or are we just hanging out in what is opposite of our genius zones and being absolutely drained by the end of the day of low level tasks that like we should not be focused on?
Yeah, it feels like you never put the amount of effort that you probably should into the thing that you don't love doing. So just understanding that fact about yourself and understanding that like Fede loves the customer service side of it. So he's automatically going to put more effort into making a guest feel special with his responses than you would, just because he already loves that. It's not that you don't care about your guests. You show that you care about your guests with how you put your property together, but the customer service on the back end just isn't the place where you feel like you're going to excel. It's funny, I literally had a conversation with my sister today, and for people that think that like our families are all 100% Airbnb, they're not. My sister actually gave me a whole speech today about how she is not a fan of Airbnbs, and she is one of the people who she thinks that an Airbnb standard gets 4 stars, and if you go above and beyond is when you get 5 stars. And she thinks that like a stocked kitchen and amenities and stuff all puts you at the 4 star mark, and you better go way above and beyond if you're getting a 5 star from her. And Fede is the kind of host who does go above and beyond for his guests, who would then push her to give 5 stars. And that's just like, I am about to hopefully list this property in the next month and a half. Let's cross our fingers that this actually happens. I'll talk about my hangups on that in a minute. But I'm debating, do I start managing the property myself so that I can like test it out? I've been in this industry for a long time. I understand how the management works, but I've never fully managed a property by myself. So I'm like, do I need to do that? Or do I make the smart business decision and pass off something that I know somebody's better at? I know he'll put more effort into it than I can. And in the end, probably make me more money than I'm going to make on my own, because he cares more about the pricing structure. He's willing to put the time into that. And so I'm like, I'm kind of at a hang up right now. Do I take the experience, or do I let him do it and then just kind of like watch on the back end how he's doing it, so I can kind of learn along the way, watching an expert do it better than me?
Right. Yeah. Well, and I feel like it's been so cloudy and difficult to understand what to hand off, right? Because like you and I are very clear that we're reaching our max level of capacity over and over again, right? Like you and like our business, like Carwell's is exploding, our properties are exploding, like there's a lot going on, like our community's getting larger and more powerful, the opportunities are coming faster. And so you and I are like, okay, like we're constantly hitting this like, okay, I'm overwhelmed, like, and how do you decide what to hand off, right? And so like remember I was like, oh, I'm gonna like find someone to do logos because that takes a day or two of my time, like that'll be the thing that I outsource. And then I'm like, okay, well maybe we need a social media manager, and like that'll be the thing that I outsource. And so I think that at least from the first 2 chapters of this book already, has given me clarity on that I need to, and probably you as well, need to focus on how to hire out to earn back our time, as opposed to how to hire out to solve any of our large issues. And so it like the book like gives you permission to like first and foremost hire a personal assistant to get all of like the really tiny tasks that like someone could do at $6 an hour, or so on and so forth. But for you, in regards to management, it's like when I started managing the lily pad with Ethan, Carwell's wasn't nearly as busy, right? And we needed more experience and more things to talk about on the Carwell channel because we didn't have that experience and we didn't have all of these other things that we understood. And now when you're looking at it, like now I'm reaching a point where I'm like, okay, Carwell's has gotten to a point where like that's all I want to focus on. Like I want to focus on continuing to scale the portfolio and continuing to scale Carwell's. And that's it. And so for either you or I to get trapped in the day-to-day operations of the properties themselves, I feel like I'm looking at how overwhelmed I already am and how much relief handing that management off has been. And I'm thinking about you in the phase of life that you are also walking into and just being like, hand it off. Hand it off, sis.
Yeah, literally Tyler and I just keep having these conversations because we're even having conversations about his job and how we're going to be able to manage, like, if we do manage the properties, how do we manage the phase of life that we're about to go into, his job with him traveling, and like I already can think of 3 trips that we have to take in the next 6 months that I'm like, okay, how am I going to like be focused on properties and like getting this stuff done when for a portion of these trips, I can't really be looking at my phone and paying attention to it. And so I'm like, okay, I just need to make the decision to like understand that maybe it's fine if I'm not the person who's actually doing the day-to-day management, as long as I understand the standard that it needs to be at, which Fede never goes below his standard. He has proven that time and time again that he has a specific standard that we all know that he holds himself to, which might be higher than what we hold ourselves to. And so I'm not worried about that at all. So why not just hand it over to somebody who already knows what they're doing instead of trying to like truck through the mud while also all of these things are exploding. Like, you're right, Carwell's is about to explode. Like at the beginning of next year, I'm panicking with how much we have to do with all of the other things that I'm going to have going on in my life, and this is just not another thing that I need added on. And instead of like, I just need to like let the ego go aside and be like, no, it's fine if people know that I'm an Airbnb person, but I didn't ever manage my own property. Like that sounds, it's just more my ego than anything else.
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly what it is, right? It's like, and same. It's like one of those things where you and I have had several conversations about like how hard it is to find anyone to do something better than you're going to do it on your own. Mm-hmm. And that's definitely like a mentality that I'm like, okay, that's now 1000% harming me more than it's helping me.
Yeah.
But also I think it makes a big difference that like when I outsourced my management right away, when we launched those 4 properties in DFW, never managing it at all and then jumping into a bad management company, I feel like was like, now looking back, I'm like, okay, I should have managed it myself out the gate because I probably would have recognized bad management a lot faster. But you've already gotten to witness all that, right? Like you were right next to my side experiencing all of that the entire time. And you've been along the journey of Fede proving himself over and over again that he is incredible at this. And just like, okay, I've been managing Orange Cadillac for the last 6 months with Sam, and Federico has been managing it for 7 days. And the level of systems that have been put in place already in 7 days versus the last 6 months, I'm like, I was doing everyone a disservice by trying to manage this. Like just how in tune he is with pricing, how intentional he is about pricing things next year and the year after because people are already inquiring about 2025. Like having him take a video that I sent him and him stopping on every single appliance and piece of technology in the house, figuring out what that is, going to a location where you can buy it, downloading the user manual into a guidebook, and then having the user manual like in this beautiful like user-friendly scroll manual for the property. I'm just like, quit. Like this is ridiculous.
It's just annoyingly perfect. No,
it's annoyingly perfect.
It literally like it can seem so hard to give something up, especially because like you're giving up dollars when you're hiring somebody to do something like this, and that's a really hard thing for people to get their mind around, but it's so worth it. Like with Carwell's, I was editing our podcast and it took me so long to edit our podcast, and we've now hired that out, and they're doing a great job. Like the edit of the podcast is maybe similar to what I did, but they're doing it significantly faster, first of all. And second of all, the copy that they're writing for the descriptions, the tags that they're doing, all of it is better and worth the money that we're spending on it, because I have so much more time back not having to edit that. And I'm not going crazy trying to edit it either. Like, we have technical difficulties with every single episode, and they have managed to work around all of them.
Right.
Like, it was beyond worth it hiring them out, and that should have been the first lesson and the only lesson I needed to like hire shit out.
Yeah. Well, and in this book, so I've referenced this book like 12 times in this podcast already. It's called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. One of the investors on Orange Cadillac, I went hiking with him in Washington. We hiked for an hour. We talked for an hour. I vented about all of like my brick walls, and he was like, Sarah, literally every problem you've got is going to be solved in this book. Like, read it immediately. Like, literally, like, drop all your plans and read this thing. And I was like, yeah, okay. But come to find out, he was right. Who knew? But in the book, it gives anyone, any entrepreneur, a calculation on how to figure out what your hourly rate is for hiring things out. And it's 1/4 of your hourly rate. So the idea is anything you're paying anyone else to do, your production is 4x what that is. And it leaves you like a huge margin for error, right? For you to hire another person or a third person to do one task. But it talks about like understanding, one, what your product, it like has you break down all of your tasks in a big T chart, and the top corner is your production zone, the next corner is your investment zone, and then there's one that's delegation zone. And the delegation zone is all of the tasks that you do that steal your energy and make you the least amount of money, like management. And so once you like write all those down, you're supposed to like outsource those immediately. And I was like, Emily and I would probably be 80 times less stressed if we would just do that together and immediately outsource all of those things.
Yeah, we could outsource so many things, I feel like, at this point.
Yeah.
That we're just pushing off. You know what?
Yeah.
We're learning, we're adapting, and we're learning along the way, just like everybody else is, I guess. It feels like I feel like from an outside perspective, people are like, oh, you should know all of this, and like your business should run so smoothly because you've been in business for technically a couple years, but like kind of 4 years because we switched. It's still adapting, you guys. We are still figuring it out, and I just don't see it being smooth for a little while. Like, things are taking off, which means more things are going to be put on our plate that we're going to have to figure out. Do we take it on? Do we hire it out? Like, what does it look like?
Yeah. It definitely, there's more pressure now to be really clear on what we're saying yes and what we're saying no to. But it's good. I mean, it's all exciting. But, you know, the book was talking about how if you don't get really clear on what's your role versus what needs to be handed off to somebody else, then your business is like, you're either going to sabotage your business or you're going to sell your business. And I was like, you know, Ethan hit that wall maybe 3 months ago with his business where he was like so stressed out by it that he was like, I'm just going to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just going to sell it. I'm getting rid of it. I'm done. Like, somebody take it. I don't want any of it. And of course, as you know, that sale didn't go through. And so now he's taken a step back and he's looked at that situation and been like, okay, wait, I can outsource X, Y, and Z, right? This is a podcast, sir. Ethan walking into the background. And it's ended up being the best thing in the world, right? Like, now we're looking back and we're like, whoa, like, we didn't want to sell that business. Like, it's so much better outsourcing it and getting it to work for itself and like freeing up Ethan's time again, so on and so forth. And so, yeah, I definitely like think we've firsthand experienced that with Ethan. And I think that you and I would have absolutely reached that point if we didn't, you know, weren't intentional about setting the right systems in place to figure out how to scale effectively, because in theory we should be getting back more of our time, not spending more of it the bigger we get.
Exactly. And like, if you are intentional about the parts that you are hiring out, you get to keep that income flow coming while also like taking some stress away from you, which is so, because like if you sell the business, sure, you get a chunk of money at the beginning, but you lose all of that money that's coming in year after year after year. But if you're intentional about hiring the correct people in the positions that take your energy away, then you get to keep that income and still, like, ideally be doing something that you love to do anyways.
Right. Right. Yeah. And, at the time when we were managing the lily pad, we had the time. Like, we had the time to put out those fires. I'll be the one to tell you that you don't have the time anymore. like,
I don't.
like with Carwell's and the mentorship and the mastermind, and we've just got so much in our lives that will make you much more money than managing your property. And like, we could build it out like Federico has, right? Like, we could take the time to like, build a management company and have it automate itself. But like, you and I are not passionate about that. Like, that doesn't align with anything that you and I are excellent at. So like, why?
Yeah, not even remotely. I worked in like I can be good at customer service, but I get this like attitude when people start giving me attitude, and I'm just too emotionally invested in the property for somebody to give me attitude, that
Right.
it's just better to have some like a third party who like cares but isn't as emotionally invested in the property as I am. So he'll react better when somebody criticizes the property.
Yeah. I mean, and I calculated too. I was like, how much, like, if I hand this all over to Federico, like all of the properties, all of the portfolio, like, and we get a deal on his rate, right? Because we're so close with him. Like, we're not paying the same rate that everybody else is because we're helping grow his business. We've developed a long relationship with him. Like, we're very aligned in a lot of ways, but obviously we still do pay him. Let me calculate it real quick. Let me see what it would be.
That is the thing about me handing it off right away, is I never have to think about what I'm losing because I'll never see it.
Yeah. I think if we hand it all over to Federico, I will be paying him around 50 grand a year to do what he does. And that's across, 6 properties, right? Like, that's a very large portfolio to be managing. But it's 50 grand, right? Like, I have to accept that, like, one of my properties, like, all of the lake house's profits will be going to just pay Federico for the portfolio. And so that's why it didn't make sense to do it for so long, right? And that's at a discounted rate. Like, it's a lot of money that we're deciding to hand over for him to do it. But one, he'll make those properties make more money than what we would have them make because he's better at it. Mm-hmm. And two, especially now that we have clarity around kind of the direction that Carwell is going, I'm confident that you and I will make more money off of Carwell's and the brand that we're building than if I was keeping my hands in the management pot of these portfolios, because I have no energy towards it. I still think we can build something greater. It's just one of those things where I'm like, okay, take the 50 grand.
Yeah, we're speaking what we've been preaching, putting hospitality first and investment second, because I feel like us sticking in the management aspect is putting investment first because we're thinking about the money that's going into our pocket, when really putting somebody in a better position to manage it better is putting the hospitality first.
Yeah. God, he's so good.
He's so good.
He's so good.
Literally like, I can't have a conversation with somebody about him without talking good about him. He's just he's a good person. He's so good at his job.
Yeah, dude. You guys are, like, if you're listening to this now and you're going to consume our content for, like, the next 10 years, just know that Federico is our ride or die. Like, hell will freeze over before I will not want to grow with that man.
Yeah, we are fangirls of Federico, for sure.
This is actually just an Urgis Rentals ad.
Seriously? Oh, gosh.
But it's one of those things. I mean, hey, when you're that good, you don't even have to pay for marketing because word of mouth is going to do it for you. So
do your job well, and people will do it for you anyways.
Yeah. Well, talk to me about you being the bottleneck in your first property that you're bringing to life all on your own.
Ugh. Well, it's taken me a year because not only am I like doing this, but I'm also focused on growing Carwell's too. So I like split the time pretty 50-50, like, and it's just a lot. And I'm trying to not be the bottleneck, but we're on like what I gave myself the deadline of August 1st. This is so not happening by August 1st because I just placed 3 orders and I have to go place another order today of things that like have to be in the property. But it's so hard to actually get stuff done and visualize the property being done when your own furniture is still in it. Like, when you move into these properties, you and Ethan don't move your furniture from property to property, but Tyler and I live in places for a year at a time, and then we move to like an apartment, and then we do like, we just have done it a different way than you guys did. So we have all of our own furniture. Some of it we're taking with us because it just doesn't make sense for an Airbnb. So like it won't, it wouldn't work in the space anyways, but then some of it's staying. And so I have like boxes in my garage that just need to get put together, but I also don't have a place to put that furniture yet because my personal furniture is there. And so we're like, okay, we need to get a storage unit and we need to move all of this stuff out and we need to figure out where we're going to live after this. And like, I've given myself until August 1st, and now I'm panicking because I don't think it's getting done until like by August 1st. And there's so many things that we were waiting on, like our flooring. Now that the flooring's done, things are progressing a lot more. But our flooring just got done like a week ago. And so now I'm like, okay, now I can finally start ordering more things and start like fixing things. But then things get added to your plate, right? Like the washer and dryer not being like hooked up. Now we have to like wait for that to get done. I painted the closet while we're waiting for that. So that got done. But now all of the trim had to get lowered. Like, so when you install the tack for the tack stuff on the edges for the carpet, they installed it underneath the baseboards instead of like like next to the baseboards when they installed the carpet. So when they put the new flooring in order to have the quarter round at the bottom, or I think that's what it's called, they had to move all of the baseboards down, and I've already painted this entire house. So now I have to go and touch up this like thin area of my entire house for paint because everything had to be moved down, and like things that you just aren't expecting to run into. But I realized today when I was ordering all this stuff that I was the bottleneck because I hadn't ordered like half of the things. And I was like, okay, well, I need to wait and like pay off this credit card and pay off this credit card. And like, I don't have just like a bank account full of money that's getting this property up and running. Like as money's coming in, it's getting spent on this property. And so it's just been a lot. And this, you were like, yeah, the last 10%'s a lot. And I was like, I can't even look at it and know if it's 10% or more. Like it's so overwhelming that I couldn't even tell you if there's 10% or 50% left. I don't think it's 50%. I think that that's an exaggeration, but like there's still so much that has to be done in this property, and I'm exhausted. And like half the time I'm like, I'll get so overwhelmed that I just won't do anything. I'm like, Emily, get off your ass and go do something. But
Yeah.
I'm so overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that has to be done.
Yeah, and it's a lot of little things. It's like literally yesterday it took me the entire day to hang all of the towel rods, and toilet paper holders and hooks in the house, right? Because every bedroom needs a strip of hooks for towels and sweatshirts and coats, and every bathroom needs a towel holder, and like there's probably like 15 things that need to be mounted, but those 15 things took all day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like just itty bitty things, like you're talking about painting the baseboards. Like I had a painter come in and do all the painting in this house this time, which was such a luxury. Oh my gosh. But it cost us an extra 12 grand, right?
Yeah.
To have somebody paint the entire interior and exterior. So that's like definitely a luxury to outsource down the road. But like literally even look at like when I lift this camera up, you can see around the new fan, like the ceiling has a white ring where the old boob light used to be. Mm-hmm. And so now I have to and that's in every room. Every light fixture got installed after the paint happened. So of course now I have to go through and like the 15 light fixtures that I replaced, now I have paint to paint around, but not all 15 light fixtures.
Yeah, and I not only have to paint that little strip that's like the old paint color in every room, I do also have to go and paint all the baseboards because they all have like marks all over them, especially now because they got torn off and put back on. And I thought I had the right color white for my ceiling, and I was just going to do touch-ups. I wasn't painting the whole ceiling because it looks fine. Like there's not like a lot wrong with it, but there were some touch-ups that needed to be done. So I went through and did all of them, and it looked really good when it was wet. It dried a completely different color. For people say that white is all the same shade. No, it's not. There are many different shades of white when it comes to paint colors, and it's not the right one. So I like have to go and color match my ceiling, have to color match my trim. I have all of these things that I need to like go and do, but I'm like having a hard time putting them in a like list of what's the most important and what's not. And then I didn't order like a ton of decor for this house yet. And because I would rather just go to like Home Goods or something and pick it up, but there's no Home Goods near here. So I have to like go down near my parents' house and do like a big trip and load up my truck with all of that. But that's a 4 hour trip down. Probably spend a weekend there because why not just like make a whole weekend out of it and see my family and then drive back up. But these are all like things that I have to put on list of importance and decide what's like the biggest thing. Like we're still trying to tape off our living room and paint it. It has 16-foot ceilings. I was going to hire it out, but then I was like, it's over $1,000 and I've painted the rest of the house myself. Like, why don't we just do it? And I had actually called somebody a month ago to get a quote. And he literally just called me back today. And he was like, hey, so I was having phone issues. And I think you left me a message about wanting to paint a room in your house. And I'm like, you seem unreliable. I'm not, you waited a month to call me back. So I'm just gonna do it myself. But like that's another thing that needs to get done. And luckily Tyler's here ideally for the month. Like he doesn't have any work trips booked. So really we should be getting a lot done this month. It's just really overwhelming when I look at my to-do list and I have to like start ranking. What do I do first? What do I do second? What can like maybe wait? Like what's making it rentable versus can I like push it off a couple months to when slow season? Because like ideally I would love to get the August renters in and like make a little bit of money, but it's just all very overwhelming. I had a panic attack today and texted you about it, so you understand.
it's so relatable. There's like weeks, like the 2 weeks before everybody came up for the 4th of July, the last 2 weeks of June, I just was like, every day in here, I was just like, someone hand me something. Because like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what order to do this in. Anything that I pick to do, there's like somebody doing something else in the same space. So like both of us working in there at the same time doesn't work. And yeah, it's just, it turns into, and I'm way less organized than you are. So I'm sure like you're looking at yours and you're like, this is chaos. And I'm like, imagine mine.
It's just like when our flooring was getting installed, we literally had to move all of the furniture in our house out. And then because they like, I assumed for whatever reason that they were going to do like one floor at a time. Not the case. They did it all. And so I thought that like I would have access to like I could shut myself in my bedroom while they did the downstairs because we have animals too, which is just like a whole nother thing to deal with while you're doing these projects. But I was like, oh, I can shut all of us in one room. And then when they're doing the upstairs, I can have them all shut in a room downstairs and like, it'll be fine. Not how it worked. We had to completely block off our kitchen with like a TV stand and boxes and a dog crate. And literally like me, Tyler, and our dog were barricaded in our kitchen for the entire week. And our cats, we just had to like shift from room to room as they were working on it with their like litter box and their food. And for an entire week, I couldn't do anything else in the house because it was being destroyed. So I'm literally just like sitting in the kitchen with my computer, like doing computer work, but I couldn't do anything. And I'm like trapped in one room for an entire week with another person and a dog.
It's so uncomfortable. Living in a construction zone is like a special type of hell. Like it's so uncomfortable. It's so chaotic. The project is chaotic by itself. And then when your environment is also chaotic, like especially as us interior designers, like who really thrive and appreciate an organized, like highly functional space, to be working in an environment that is just like dirty, chaotic, unorganized, full of people you don't know. Like it is just, it's I'm so ready to be done with this phase of life.
Yeah, I'm ready to not live in a construction zone. I literally told Tyler the next property we buy is going to be one that either has space to build a second structure on it or already has a second structure on it, and we're going to live in one while we work on the other and then move into that one while we work on the other and just deal with like the holding cost of living in either one while we're working on them, because I cannot do this construction zone thing again to this extent. It's so hard to get it's so hard to get anything done when like nothing has a place really to go. Like my closet, half of my clothes are in baskets. Some of them are hung up, but it's in my office because my closet in my room didn't have racks to hang for like the longest time, which sounds like such a simple thing. But when every day when you're like going to get your clothes, that you have to like get up, you have to go to another room, you have to like search through baskets to find your pants, but then you have to like look, it's just little things that take up your time that I'm like, it's a special kind of hell living in these construction
Yeah.
zones.
Right. Well, and it's like, I mean, the other day I was watching a Cody Sanchez video, and her husband is, I don't know if he's ex-military or career ex-military or current military. I don't know. Some relationship to the military, has been in the military for an extended amount of time. And she was saying, like, studies show that people who have been in the military are like X percentage more likely to be successful. And she was like, my opinion on why that is because they are so heavy on routine. And like having all, if you can like have a typical daily decision be a routine, then it removes that off of your plate, like that burden off of your plate. You don't have to think about it. You know that every single day at 7 o'clock you're getting up and you're going to work out, and every day at 8 o'clock a.m. you're having a protein shake and a piece of toast, and every day at 8:30 you're in the shower, and every day at 9 o'clock you're sitting in front of your desk. Like, and although it seems like so monotonous, you become exponentially more productive because you don't have all these little decisions to make throughout the day that are draining your energy with every little decision.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're in these projects, when we're living in them and we're like trying to make the right financial decision by not carrying a mortgage plus wherever you're living, whether that be rent or a second mortgage, it's like not only is it the biggest project of your life and the most chaotic project of your life, but also all of the decisions that you have to make on an everyday basis are all spread out and like stretched out and like thrown across the room and like just absolutely obliterated for the however many month period that it's going to take for you to bring this property to life. And nobody talks about it, but you're right, it is a special kind of hell.
It's a special kind of hell. Yeah. And on top of it, so like outside of living in a construction zone and moving out of this Airbnb, Tyler and I have moved once a year for most of our relationship. We've been like on the move. We've only stayed in a place for a year, and then we either like move to Houston to be with his parents, or we get moved to Thailand, or like we moved to Fort Worth thinking that's where we're going to be, and then COVID happens, and then we were moved to Thailand, and then we moved to Michigan, and like all of these things keep changing. And Tyler's like, I'm so sick of moving once a year. He's like, I want a place where like we know that we're going to stay, and the next year we're not packing up and moving our shit again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's so hard. Like you and Ethan love this like nomadic lifestyle, and Tyler and I are very much homebodies. And like there's like a TikTok trend about like the girl who likes to read and the guy who likes to play video games, and how they're the perfect couple. That's literally me and Tyler, and we just like having our space and being at home. And so having this thing where like understanding that because the way that we're investing means that we're going to live in the construction zone, we're doing this at least 2 more times. And so like we have to understand that we're going to be living in these properties again and moving once a year for like the next couple years, and just like deal with it. And it really is a privilege to be able to do that. I don't want it to sound like I'm just completely complaining and that I hate it and that there's no benefits to it, because there obviously is. It's just very hard not like knowing that you're not settling down in one spot for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. And simultaneously watching everyone our age buy their forever home.
Yeah.
Like I can romanticize it all day long, and I feel like you're right. Like Ethan and I are more nomadic than you and Tyler are. But Ethan's 32. Like, and I'm 29. Like, we are nomadic, but we're definitely reaching a point where like we want some consistency. We see the value in routine. Like, I need to be going to a gym regularly, right? Like, I want to have like, I don't know. I just want like these little daily luxuries. And that's why, like, when it came time to get an apartment, or we started talking about getting an apartment, because Ethan and I were living either in a construction zone, in a B&B, or at my parents'. And I hate both of those places. Like, love the B&Bs, love my parents, don't love living in either place. And so when we decided to get an apartment, I was just like, how cheap can we make this? Because I want this to be the place that like we keep for the next 5 years as just like a landing base for in between all of the chaos. And if we want to step away from the chaos for a week. We like don't have to go to my parents' house. We don't have to get into the bus. We don't have to get in the van. Like, let me have like a desk and a sofa and like a place for my toothbrush.
Right, in a bed I consistently get to sleep in, a closet that my clothes actually hang in for a period of
Hanger.
time. Hangers, yeah.
Like, I just want a hanger.
No, yeah. And Tyler and I are like having the discussion of there's a lot of people, because like people kind of got their career set in place right after college or even right after high school. Everybody's kind of picked the place that they're going to settle down and live in for the foreseeable future. And Tyler and I just don't know that that's Michigan. And so we like for the next couple of years we're going to invest in Michigan and then spend our time figuring out where we actually want to live and where it makes sense for us to live. And so it's just understanding that the next 5 years are still going to be chaos and then knowing that the end result is worth all the chaos, but just the part where you're living through it is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, we preach financial freedom and freedom of time all the time, right? And I think that, like, it's just so crystal clear that at the end of this, and I don't even want to say end, right? Because I don't foresee there being, like, a period, little red bow, like, close, end of
Okay,
book
bye. You'll never
scenario.
see us again. That kind of ending.
Yeah, sorry, we built it and, like, bye. But I do see there being a point where, like, it's stable. We don't have to be scrappy anymore. Like, you know, it like not every single dollar matters. Like, you know, the grind that we're in right now is not a forever grind, but and we are like absolutely certain or would like to be certain that like financial freedom and freedom of time will absolutely come from this, and it has to a certain degree, right? But like between like when that light bulb moment happens and like when that lifestyle really is solidified, the chaos that we're in, this like 5-year period of like building the foundation of your portfolio, is a hustle like I never anticipated it would be.
It definitely is.
Somehow I suckered you into it too.
It's so worth it. It really is.
So
And I, like I said, it's a privilege and that we get to do this and that like we get to take the week off of 4th of July and do nothing and hang out with our friends that come to visit from New York and all these things. It's like a major privilege to be able to do that, but it is not lacking in difficulties, that's for sure.
yeah. Yeah. And I mean, at some point, we've just got to embrace it. Like, we're choosing stress over being poor. Like, at the end of the day, that is a choice, right? Like, we could, like, there are days that I envy not having all roads end at me, right? Like, same thing for you. It's like every single problem that these properties bring up, every single problem that we run into Carwells with, like, every problem, there is no higher up to offer a solution. There is nobody that you can toss it to, that you can sideswipe it to, that you can hope that somebody else will resolve. Like, every problem ends at our doorstep. And it is a privilege. Like, you're absolutely right that that pressure is a privilege, but holy cow. I will bitch about it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think people like need to hear the bad parts of it because it sounds great and the financial freedom that comes at the end of all of this stuff is great, but there are parts that like nobody talks about when like
Yeah.
starting and running your own business.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a blast, but it's a struggle at the same time. But it's insane. I mean, if we look at like how much our income has changed in the 3 years, 4 years that we've been doing this, especially over the last 6 months, like, I mean, we grinded for 3 years making literal pennies.
Yeah. Thank God for our
And now
husbands.
thank God for our husbands. But yeah, the whole thing, I mean, we deal with a lot for sure. We deal with a lot of stress, but that's part of it, right? It's one of those things that we signed up for it. I think that as time goes on, like, we'll learn to manage our own anxiety and our own disappointment better.
And we'll get better at delegating, so the stress level will go down while hopefully things continue to increase in other ways. We're able to like delegate and make sure that we're keeping our sanity while doing this.
And hopefully as we find good solutions, we get to hand those solutions over to all of you a lot faster than it took us to find them.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Well, beautiful. Well, look at us. That's really all I've got today. Anything else you want to cover before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I have a bunch of boxes that I should be opening that are in my garage.
Oh, me too. I also will confess that I ordered 2 lights that I decided would look better red, so I ordered 2 brand new lights that I'm currently spray painting immediately.
Nice. Yeah. For anybody who's a short-term rental investor, my trash shed is starting to overflow and I just keep ignoring it. I've rented a dumpster once and I'm just waiting until I need to rent another one, but man, it's packed.
Dude. Yeah, I found out yesterday at the short-term rental meeting in Bitely. This is my final note. That the guy who runs the trash transfer station in Bitely is paid by the city, and he's only paid $19,000 a year. And we were at the city meeting, and they were like just talking about how he will literally show up at midnight if you called him. He fixes everything by hand. Any tractor, any like mechanical issue that the city has, he comes and fixes it like on his own dime. And I was like, can I have this guy's number? Because I will happily pay him $30,000 a year to be our maintenance man for all of our proproperties, and I'll work him less and pay him way more.
Yeah.
Like, this guy sounds like he's getting way underpaid for what he's doing.
That makes me sad.
That makes me so sad. I was like, what? I was like, never mind, give me the stress.
So y'all are taking advantage of him, city people.
Yeah. Yeah, they upped his salary from 16 grand a year to 19 grand a year. I was like, what? Okay.
People say we're scammers.
Right. I mean, he only does work 3 days a week, and all 3 days are half days, so technically a day and a half a week, but...
Still, if he's doing all that extra shit, too.
I know. And he seems like a great guy, so anyway, I'm probably going to steal him from the city, but...
Good.
That's neither here nor there.
You might not be able to compete with city benefits if he gets those.
That's true.
That's hard.
That's true. What if I double his income?
Fair enough. That might help.
I know, truly. But anyway, okay, well, for our listeners, thanks for listening to this episode. If you are growing your small business like we are, I hope this spiel was encouraging to you to know that we're just making it up as we go and trying to help you out along the way. So keep hustling out there, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.